Boy, the toughest thing about getting here this morning was after surfing 3 hours, I had to put this tie on. Just kidding. And I wish we would have had nicer weather for you, but it's a little windy today. So I'd really like to thank the USASBE for the opportunity to be here today, and Professor Shukla and White for selecting me to speak. And it's an honor, it really is, to speak in front of such a distinguished group of professors, educational leaders, professionals, and government policy makers. I think my title was Servant Leadership. I'm going to talk for 15 minutes. That's it. My brother taught me after 12 minutes you lose 80% of the audience. So I'm going to talk for 15 minutes, and we'll have up to 45 minutes of questions. They're kind of the three themes that I live by. Increasing your personal and professional net worth by expanding your network. Be a servant leader to increase your company's productivity. And success is giving first. During USC and my first job out, I worked for a restaurant chain in Southern California, a white tablecloth high-end restaurant chain owned by Saga, and I was assistant manager out of school, and I remember we had about 12 stores, and our first participatory management meeting we had 12 managers, 12 assistant managers, 12 chefs, and the corporate staff. And they said, we're here today to make some menu changes. So the first one was the removal of taking the baked potato off the main entree and making it a la carte for $1. And I raised my hand and I said, I think that's going to be a problem with customers. I think you should just raise the price of the entree $1. And then we got to the abalone, and I think abalone was our signature dish. I think the Velvet Trail restaurants serve 3% of all the abalone in the U.S., and they were going to charge abalone per ounce, double at dinner per ounce. And I said, that's going to be a problem because people come into lunch and dinner here, and they're going to realize it's double dinner versus lunch. Well, the third time I stood up, put my hand up, the executive chef said, damn it, sit down, we've already printed the menu. And that was my first lesson for participatory management when I was 23 years old. Needless to say, that restaurant chain didn't survive but a couple years longer. I went to work for a commercial printing company in Southern California, a very high-quality commercial company, and I remember that the owner and the general manager came in on their own separate driveway on the side. They had their own parking spots, their own bathrooms, and they rarely would ever walk into the company. This owner just really didn't want to listen to anybody, and it was a sheet-fed, high-quality printing company. He wanted to get into the high-run web printing side, and we said, don't do that. There's overcapacity in the market. Needless to say, he did it anyway, and 3 years later, the company failed. I was working for a banknote printer in Los Angeles owned by Title Insurance Corporation, and a company called Pandic Inc. out of New York had come to the West Coast to steal some of the top salespeople, of which I was one. And I'm sitting with the president of Jeffries, his lawyer, my lawyer, and some other people, and he turned to me, and he did not like the fact that salespeople made so much more money than he did. And he said, Dennis, Bernie, and you will not be able to take the $30 million worth of printing with you to the new company. Now, you just need to tell someone that you can't do something. Needless to say, we took 28 million of the 30 million of the printing business with us 2 years later, and 2 years later, they were no longer in business. So at 30 years old, I joined Pandic Inc., a $400 million New York Stock Exchange printer, as a divisional president. I was high on my horse. I received a $1 million employment contract, $200,000 a year guaranteed, plus profits, plus stock options. Pandic was the nation's largest financial printer, typesetting and printing prospectuses. So the 8 divisional presidents would fly to New York once a quarter, and they would talk down to us, never let us ask any questions, and kind of told us how the company was going to run. The first mistake I saw was that our president got sold on buying a typesetting system in England that typeset encyclopedias. And we said, what does typesetting encyclopedias in London have to do with typesetting prospectuses in the U.S.? But they bought the system anyway. Then our CFO wanted to centralize typesetting in a bomb shelter in South Carolina and then send all the typesetting out to each division. We said, no, typesetting is becoming decentralized. You can almost typeset on a PC. That's the wrong way. The service levels are going to go down, and they did. And then last but not least, it was mid-1986, the heyday of the public offerings, and the CEO said, I think we're going to do a leveraged buyout and take the company private. We said, don't do that, because sometime in the next couple of years, the stock market's going to crash. So December 1986, we took the company private. It was a $270 million LBO. 10 months later, October 19th, 1987, we had the stock market crash, Black Monday, and the market was down 22% in one day. I came home and told Joyce that Pandic would not be around for that much longer. So now at 36 years old, I thought it was time to become an entrepreneur. I co-founded a small little leasing company with another person and a related magazine. We each put in $100,000 each, classic undercapitalized. Dad was right, it takes 3 times the time and 3 times the money to get your product or service to the market. What I left, though, was my network of 13 years of accountants, lawyers, investment bankers, my client base, and past associate of friends. And I was trying to create a new business outside my network. This is very difficult, and it takes time to create one within a new industry, in our case, the finance industry. Our leasing company had no written business plan to follow through with, and we had no board of advisors. We did not focus on our niche leasing business and started a new magazine to save the company. 2 at once failed. I had a partner who would not listen to me or anyone in our company. He would not take advice. He was a very insecure person. He had once told me that he never had failed, really. In the end, after 3 years, paying everyone but myself, my family's net worth went from $1.6 million to 0. We sold our house. If you know Orange County, Newport Beach, we had a $1 million house on top of the Newport Beach, and we had when we closed escrow, we were only one of 3 houses over $1 million to sell. We had a first, second, third, and fourth. We went to the bottom of the hill to rent our apartment. I had no income verification for 3 years, so I had to borrow $3,000 to put up 3 months' rent to go into the apartment. I borrowed from my sister. When escrow closed, I think we had about $4,000 left. We had about $1,000 to our name. There was certainly no sympathy in my family. My dad's an entrepreneur. Both sides are entrepreneurs. My wife's father's an entrepreneur. We're pure entrepreneurs. And the same for her family. So what? You lost it all. Pick yourself up and do it again. Now, my wife Joyce had been retired for 6 years, and we had 3 kids under 8 years old. Luckily, I had a very supportive entrepreneurial wife, and Joyce went back so we could eat and started her own advertising agency. It was really at this point that I became an entrepreneur. So now I had to figure out what I was really good at. Finally, use all my business lessons to start and grow a successful company. My common thread in my career was the understanding of great customer service. So, the overnight story in 1992. I suspected there was a regional overnight delivery market in California after the FedEx, UPS, DHL pickup. Actually, California has the earliest pickup in the U.S. because the planes have to travel the farthest to Louisville, Kentucky, and Memphis, Tennessee. So they stopped picking up at 5 o'clock. And I knew in particular that entrepreneurial companies don't stop working at 5 o'clock, and I knew they would give us packages after 5 o'clock. And I also knew from my prior financial printing days there was a small niche of picking up after normal business hours. In addition, I asked my network of friends if they would use an overnight delivery service after 5 o'clock. Our original concept, and still is, we offer a 9 o'clock pickup from 1,500 drop boxes next to FedEx and UPS, and pick up directly from our customers between 9 and midnight, and then deliver California, Arizona, and Nevada the next morning by 9. So tired, broke, feeling very low about life, I went back to my network for help. The good news was that I helped many people over the years in business. Whenever they called me, I would help them. I went back to my network for ideas. I went back to my network for advisory board members. I went back to my network to help me write a business plan. I went back to my network to raise money. It was time to surround myself with smarter, more competent, experienced business people. It was time to surround myself with entrepreneurs who had done it before. It was a time to partner with investors, board members who were not yes people. So the Overnight Express story began. I think I put together the business plan and pro forma. I saw 50 people, and I was able to raise $150,000 from our first investor. I put a valuation of our company of $1.5 million, sold 10% for $150,000. Of course, within 9 months, we ran out of money, and I had to go back at it and raise money as all entrepreneurs do. And this time I was able to raise $250,000 of angel money. And then year 3, we got SBA financing of $100,000, and then year 4, bank financing for $200,000 to expand throughout the state. So I guess we did it on about $700,000. Well, it turns out that FedEx, UPS, and DHL do not make all their deliveries every day, up to about 3% because of a minor address discrepancy. If you type in 1000 Main Street and they're really at 10,000 Main Street, they will bring the package back to their truck, and you're lucky if you even get a call. So we figured out that if we could correct that package, we would be a hero. So we don't call you the sender, we don't call the recipient. We figured out, we usually go to a website today, figure out where the company is, run it down the street, get it delivered, and then call the sender to let them know we got it delivered to the correct address. And they say, my gosh, there was 10 architects waiting for that package in our conference room. You saved my you-know-what. I'll never use the F company again. So we figured out quickly. We never mentioned the F word around my company, by the way. So we figured out quickly that if we made these corrections in the field, we'd provide a higher level of service than the nationals. So now it was time to be a big giver. To succeed, I needed to give my associates what they wanted first before I could succeed, the opposite of what I'd learned in corporate life. We treat our associates well. We listen to them, put their ideas into action. I wanted our associates to act as if it was their company. All 300 plus at Overnight Express are associates, not employees. I cannot stand that term. I think it sounds degrading. Actually, our yearly business plan has input from all of our associates who want to give input to improve our company, from drivers to the janitor. I knew if my associates were convinced that I had their best interest first, respect, was honest with them, always told them the truth, good or bad, gave them a real incentive program that they could understand on a daily basis, give them true upward professional opportunities, and most importantly, let them know that their families were first and Overnight Express was a distant last. Then and only then would we succeed. I consider myself to be a servant leader. I park my car in the back of the parking lot next to the trash cans. I pick up the cigarette butts on the way in. I wipe the men's toilet seat, make the coffee, and then I sit down at my desk. Now, I said that, and Smart Business Magazine printed that in Orange County last year on the front page. I said, did you have to print the toilet seat part? After all that, we became the high-quality overnight delivery provider in California, Arizona, Nevada, and now we have a partnership with Estafeta to deliver Mexico. So how did we become the high-quality provider? By viewing a client for life. Our average client, new client, gets us one package a night, and that average cost to them is $12.50. If you multiply that out times 10 years, that's a $32,000 customer. That's a big, big customer. To make sure that all the packages get delivered, we give everyone the responsibility as well as the authority to make it happen. For instance, if someone puts a package in our drop box the next morning, we know it because we scanned the box the night before. We'll spend $250 to put that package on an airplane from Orange County to Reno because we don't look at it as $12.50. We look at it as $32,000 customer. But again, we give everybody the authority as well as responsibility to make that happen. I said, keep top management out of the way. Top management leadership role is to facilitate professional growth with all associates. For God's sake, if you micromanage your associates, you're an unproductive leader and your associates are being cheated and underutilized. If you treat your associates well, let them make it happen, champion them, encourage them. In turn, your clients will be treated like gold. Not until then do you really deserve a profit. Our incentive plan is unique, too, in that everyone is on incentive and commission. We're the only ones in the world that pay our drivers as a percentage of gross. So we have a morning delivery by 9, one by 11, one by 1, and one by 4. So they get about 35% of gross. So our driver for making a 9 o'clock delivery will make about $10 versus morning about 6 versus 1 about 4. So our drivers are delivering in a smaller geographical area as we grow, making more money each year. We have the 3 highest paid sales reps in the United States. Our 3 top salespeople make double the highest paid FedEx sales rep in New York City, and they deserve it. Our inside associates are given a quarterly bonus based on shipment count and profit. If you're in customer service, you have a fixed salary for life unless you go up in responsibility. Well, let's say you get a nickel for each package. So the salesperson comes in, so I just got a giant account and 10 packages a night, which would be huge for us, and the customer service says a nickel times 10 is 50 cents, 5 days a week, $2.50 a week, $10 a month, $120 a year, 10 years, $1,200. They stand up and they hug each other. We actually have a hugging policy, and I'm serious about this legally. If you don't like to be hugged in our company, we don't have to hire you. Everybody's incentivized to have a client forever. We became a technology leader. By creating all of our technology internally, and that's where entrepreneurs have a big leg up today, because technology has gotten so cost effective. Our technology drives our quality, including order supplies, email delivery confirmation, locating the drop box, online shipping, or you could ship tonight with a credit card. And we're the first ones in the world, way ahead of FedEx, UPS, and DHL. We have a VPOD, Visual Proof of Delivery. If you give us the okay to leave your package at the recipient's front door, we take a picture of the front door and the address and the package sitting there, and within 30 seconds of delivery, you'll get a picture in your email of your package. And you might say, oh my gosh, that's not my home, that's my next door neighbor's home. So at least you know where it is, but it's really, really cool. We now have 8,000 daily customers. We'll make over 3 million deliveries in 2009. In 2003, we purchased our current 52,000 square foot corporate office and main sorting facility. We've continually grown over the last 17 years as the brand of quality written all over it. And most important, we have less than 5% turnover, less than 5%. I know that's statistically impossible in entrepreneurial books, but by treating people well, by instilling them to make it happen as entrepreneurs, we've had almost no turnover. To have the same driver go in the same guarded gate community in Anaheim Hills here for 15 years makes a big difference. And frankly, in this competitive environment, how can you afford to have a turnover? We have very capable and supportive directors who are also investors. So now to the present. In the beginning of 2007, there was a regional overnight delivery company called Transbox that was struggling and up for a fire sale. 2007 was a year of overcapacity in the California market. We had two options: go acquire competitors and grow, or be acquired and grow. The market had become very competitive and pricing of shipping was coming down. The American free enterprise system. Our shareholders, I did not own 51% of the company, unfortunately, wanted more and more distributions and grow the company and still have me personally guarantee over $5 million. I went to my associates and asked them, what should we do? They knew it was really tough and competitive, and they said, let's sell. So we took Overnight Express to a national market, but ended up with a strategic buyer. In February of 2008, we were acquired actually by Norco, which is headquartered in Anaheim, a 50-year-old distribution company. Norco wanted our leaders, our leadership, our brand, sales and marketing, our technology, and stellar reputation. Norco and Overnight Express are stronger companies today. We'll co-brand and cross-sell our clients additional services. Last, my view on life and business. I am obviously a people lover. The way you treat people in life and business, it's all connected. Whatever you give out and how you help people will come back in your mirror of life. This is your network. Associate yourself with capable people. These are your suppliers. Call them partners. Associate with top professional partners, your accountants, lawyers, your bankers. By the way, these should all be entrepreneurs. Pick clients who are quality-driven and capable and learn with them, grow with them. This is a winning team. And last, be a giver first, be a big giver. This means understanding that you will never be very successful in life or as a business person or entrepreneur unless you help your network, your associates, your friends get what they're striving for first. Give your associates, your partners, clients quality, excellence, honesty, and respect. Give everyone a can-do attitude. Attitude is everything. Put your life in order. Life is balance. If your faith or family faith first, second, friends should be third, and your business should be a distant fourth. Don't forget, your network is your net worth. Thank you very much. I will answer any question, personal, professional. I'm ready for questions. So, who's the first question? Yes, sir. Oh, he asked what's next for me, and it was interesting. I was with the CEO about 3 years ago having lunch, and he said, "What are you doing, Rob, for fun?" And I said, "Well, I'm on 5 private boards helping other entrepreneurs." And he said, "Have you lost your passion for Overnight Express?" And the reality is that I did. I lost my passion probably 3 years ago, so it was probably time. So I'm on 5 private boards. I have about 100 breakfasts a year with people from 23 to 60 years old to help them with their entrepreneurial companies and startups and where they want to go in life. I'm on several nonprofits, involved with USC and their entrepreneurial program. I joined a good friend in the venture capital business. He has individuals pool their money, and they pool their money and then go alongside Tier 1 VCs, and I've invested with him 5 times in 5 years and done great. So it's kind of a natural ending to my career. I didn't want to go do something again, 60 hours a week, and so I can be with entrepreneurs, funding them, helping them. I can be with my entrepreneurial friends to raise money and put entrepreneurs together. So it's all kind of my end of my career, being with entrepreneurs and helping them succeed. So I'm really now more in the venture capital business. Yeah. I was told because they're professors, there's going to be a lot of questions. You remember when your students don't ask questions, how frustrated you get? So now I'm going to see. Now I'm on the other side, finally, yeah. Oh, by the way, I did sit in the right front of the class. I did give my professors the illusion that I was a good student. That was your front left, but anyway, so, yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, miss. The question was, once we were sold, what did we do to keep the quality of service there? I think things always change when you're acquired by a 50-year-old company. We were very entrepreneurial. They're a lot more corporate. They're more into policy than objectives. They did keep our salespeople, so we had those outside connections. They did keep most of our inside staff where they make their money back as consolidating drivers, because our driver and their driver would be making the same stop. So far, so good. The level of service has stayed the same, in some areas even a little bit better because we have more drivers. My employment contract actually runs out at the end of this month, so I'm saying goodbye to everyone on the 31st. So far, so good for the last year. It's gone very, very well. It's a tough economy. I think there's going to be, some cuts here in the next year, but really, if you think about it, what do you have? I mean, FedEx and DHL, of course, DHL is gone now, overnight U.S., but that's all you have really is customer service against the big overnight delivery companies. Obviously, we pick up a lot later, and they've already gone home, but that's all you really have today is customer service, because you're up against such incredible companies. So far, so good. Yes, sir. The question was the anxiety, of the merger. I think there's a book called The Merger Syndrome I read about 25 years ago, and everybody kind of freezes, and there's zero productivity. We were so brutally honest over the 17 years. One year we had a 5% cut in pay, and everybody was excited. We didn't lay anybody off. We were always very, very open, and they say people that aren't communicated to then feel uncomfortable with companies. But they knew how tough business was getting for us, and they knew the numbers. We showed almost everybody our financials on a monthly basis. Everybody kind of knew where we were, and it was a great run, but they realized that either I had to go out and borrow $20 million to acquire a competitor, or we needed to be acquired. And actually, our cash flow was so bad that last December I had to write a $400,000 check a month before the merger to keep the payroll going. That's how tight it was. But I actually borrowed that money. But anyway, they were, everybody was nervous, but they've kept most of our senior management. Actually, this is point. We were offered $1 million more by another company, and I turned the offer down because I did not want my associates working for these people that I didn't respect, and that's real money that left the table. So I wanted to leave them the best I could with a management team that I thought they'd have the brightest future with. So we like the people who bought us. They're good folks. They have good values. They respect people. And so far, so good. But the latest memo, I just about lost it, was it said, I like to have fun, by the way. F-U-N is the most important word in my life. It said, we will no longer provide styrofoam or paper cups nor flavored creamers at the coffee stations. And I saw that last week and I about fell over. So, a little bit different culture, but I'm sure they mean well. Yeah. Did that answer your question? Okay. Yes, sir. Yes. Sure. What I did about 12 years ago is I called up all the regional overnight delivery companies in North America. There's one in Canada called Cardinal Courier. There's one in Mexico called Estafeta, which, interesting enough, is owned by a German family. And then there's 9 other regional overnight delivery companies in the U.S. And I put together this association, North American Regional Overnight Delivery Companies. Of course, I did not let in my 3 competitors in California because it was Rob's club, right? I started it. And we would meet every year to kind of share notes, marketing technology. So we really had kind of a good pace. So Estafeta was kind of part of that relationship that I brought in early on, and then Lone Star Overnight in Texas actually started with them first, bringing packages back and forth. So we had a really good relationship with Estafeta 3 or 4 years before we even launched off a partnership. But again, I think that was really invaluable to be with similar companies, but you don't compete against each other to be in the United States. And it was a credible sharing of ideas and stuff, and I have amazing long-term relationships with these people. Yes, sir. How my experiences influence our VC investments in the next X years. I've stereotyped 1,000 times in my life, and I've been wrong 1,000 times. But I've met some of the VCs, and I haven't met one yet that's actually run a business. They all have their undergrad and master's degree, and they've never run a business, but they can tell you how to run a business. I think I have a pretty good idea of business people and who the management team is, and I think there's some great opportunities out there. As I said earlier, a lot of money hasn't been made buying at the top of the market. I think that now is a great time to invest in companies and make a lot of money. And I think my partner of 10 years, he's a CFO, COO, about 4 companies. So I think we bring some talent of management leadership in selection. We'll do probably $2 million out of a $10 million deal typically, and that's what we're going to be doing in the future. So I'm not that smart, but I at least have good operating experience, and if I smell something good, I think it's probably right. But you typically buy management. I mean, is the technology good? Yes, but can these people carry it off, and do they have the experience to carry it off? If that makes sense. So I usually look at people and who they surround themselves with. Yes, sir, in the blue shirt. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last. I guess your question was, what can you do as professors of entrepreneurship to help your students? What advice would give you to help your students? Well, I think probably most universities are bringing in outside speakers. I know at USC we bring in outside speakers almost every week, and I think having real world entrepreneurs come in who have lost it is really important. I mean, anybody can give a good talk on they started this technology and sold it for $1 billion, but I think it's important to bring in entrepreneurs who have crashed and burned and started with nothing. I think the easy stories don't really provide a lot of value. I mean, there's 500 tech companies going out of business every day for every one that might succeed. So I think bringing in real world people, if that answers your question, of entrepreneurs who have crashed and burned is probably most valuable. Does that answer your question? Okay. In the back, in the blue jacket. Yeah, the question is about board. Boy, this is a book in itself. Boy, that's a really, and of course partnerships. I'm going to give you my partnership story early on, but maybe I'll do that later in the end. But, you know, what we do today when we start a new company is we put together 5 or 6 advisory board people, because no one wants to be on a board today because the D&O insurance, etc. We put together 5 or 6 advisory board members that can influence that entrepreneur to accelerate the rate of growth of his or her company. I think advisory board people are extremely important, and typically when we put together these advisory boards, the advisory board people are so excited about the concept because they get it, they end up investing themselves. I will tell you, if you asked me to be your partner and you wanted 51%, you wanted to give me 49%, I'd say I don't want to be your partner. However, I think it's important to own control of your company at least 51%. You know, shareholders are great, you know, when you need them. Our shareholders, for $1 invested in 93, our shareholders got back an 18 times return on their money. And I had shareholders and board members who were still unhappy and didn't think that we should sell the company. It's so critical to put together the right board members or advisory board members. It's just one of the most important things you can do. You know, in some of my faults in life, I have not checked people out very well in their past. I mean, were they on an advisory board? How do they act? How much ownership did they have? And it's absolutely critical. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur and you surround yourself with really smart people, maybe you give them 1/5 of 1% over 3 years, and they're kind of involved in your company, and they can help you launch. I mean, I think your advisory board is super critical today because, you know, you look at Bill Gates. That picture didn't have Bill in it. He had that picture with 12 people. So he surrounded himself with some really great, you know, people, launched it off. But it's so important to check out your board people ahead of time, and it can be such a great influence on your product and service, and it can be a lot of fun too. It's a lot of fun being on these advisory boards. We meet some really interesting entrepreneurial people. And, oh, by the way, we don't ever put an advisory board member on an entrepreneurial board unless they're an entrepreneur themselves. We wouldn't put the vice president of Ford Motor Company on an entrepreneurial board. Nothing against Ford. Yes. Yes, sir. I guess the question is, do you look, when you're making an investment, do you look at a servant leader as being one that you want to invest in? Is that what you're saying? Well, I think the CEO is the quarterback. And is the quarterback capable of organizing the next play and putting his or her team together? I mean, the CEO takes all the credit and certainly takes all the, you know, criticism. Yeah, again, I think you buy management. I think you buy management. And, you know, does a CEO have the ability to, I mean, you can run a sweatshop if you want. There's a lot of successful sweatshops and be a CEO and be a jerk and turn over, you know, 30% of people a year. And there are a lot of successful companies like that. But I personally, that's not my deal. And obviously, I'm more attracted to someone who's servant leader and builds a good team and has a good track record over the years than I would invest in some guy who just wants to run a sweatshop. I wouldn't invest in a sweatshop, and I don't think sweatshops deserve a profit, because I don't think they're providing value in the marketplace. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah. So I thought I was having professor questions. I guess one more, 2 more? Okay, yes, sir. Yes. Sure. The question is, how much money do you have now to invest, and what industries are you going to invest in? First answer question is zero. We have no money. We take individual investors, pool our money, and invest in individual VC transactions alongside Tier 1 venture capitalists. We just funded Mogreet, the first video text message in the world. We did $2.5 million, and another VC did $2.5 million. So it's an opportunity. Usually it's institutional money, or you have to be a mega millionaire to invest in VC. We basically pool high net worth individuals. I've invested with Chris, my partner, for 5 years and done quite well, so it was natural for me to go out and ask you to invest in. What are we going to invest in? As I was saying earlier, a lot of money has not been made buying at the top of the market. I think now is a great time to invest in companies. I think the environmental cleanup is going to be huge money. We're working on one deal we just passed on. It was just too small. They're replacing the diesel trucks, LA Harbor 1200, with electric engines and batteries. That saves $8,000 per truck per month in fuel, zero pollutants. They're going public next week. Can make a lot of money. We're doing a ship deal that third largest pollutant in the world. Bring your ship in, take your containers out. Your oil, you have to fill it back up with ocean water from Long Beach. It goes back to London and unloads the water there. There's plant life, bacteria, and sea life. And this guy has invented a way to kill the oxygen in the water, and it's pure water, and it's a $17 billion cleanup. It's probably a 10-to-1 in the next 3 years. A lot of environmental cleanup things are going to be very, very successful. We've always been super high-tech, hard to do medical devices or hard to do technology, but I'm very excited about environmental cleanup, and I think a lot of money is going to be made there. So I'm excited about the environmental cleanup. Okay, yes, sir. Maybe two more. Yes, sir. Your question was that universities are not entrepreneurial institutions. Well, it's interesting. If you look at USC, there's 4 names on the wall. Gordon Marshall was an entrepreneur. He gave the business school $35 million. They named it after him. Popovich was an entrepreneur. He built the Popovich Hall. Paul Orfila from Kinko's wrote a big check. His name's on the wall. And Lloyd Greif, an entrepreneur, wrote a check for the Greif Entrepreneur Program. It's interesting, but about 80% of the funds that come to universities are entrepreneurs. What do you know? So I think we need to remind our institutions that the entrepreneurs are the ones in this country that are driving things, and I think for a business school, you should be as entrepreneurial as you possibly can. I mean, I wouldn't expect the music school to be entrepreneurial, but I think it's more important, and I know it's the fastest growing area is entrepreneur programs across the United States, and it's very competitive. And it's where everybody wants to do that today, and I think it's important that universities understand that. I think USC understands that. I mean, President Sample gets that. You know, look where your money's coming from. It gets down to money, and if you don't, you know, appreciate the entrepreneurs, then you're probably not going to be as successful. So I think universities are leaning more towards what you guys are doing out there, which I think is exciting. That's why this is the most fun group I've ever talked to before. I just get totally excited, as you can see. There's one more question, I think, down here. Any more questions? Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you today.